Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tech Talks. Today we have 5 ENTJs, and I'll let them introduce themselves. Christian, could you tell us a bit about you?
Sure, absolutely. So my name is Christian, and I was just typed as ENTJ by cognitive personality theory, or Harry from that system. And I work as an epidemiologist, and I'm based out of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Nice to hear. And Dominic?
Hello, I'm Dominic. I'm a verified ENTJ and been typed by personality hackers by Melissa. I'm from the Chicago area. I'm a business owner in intermodal transportation, which is overseas containers that come from other countries. They come here into Chicago, and we go into the rail yards and pick up the containers and deliver the cargo or pick up cargo. Or there's trains that are coming from the West Coast that need to get to the East Coast. So we'll go to the West Coast rail to pick up the container and bring it to an East Coast rail. So it continues on to New York. I've been interested in typology, I would say around 2012, and the personality hackers, I've been following with them and been I would say trained and went and still involved with them, going through some classes, and that's about it.
Yeah, fascinating. And Nii?
Hi, thanks again for having us here. My name is Nii. I'm a UX researcher, a user experience researcher out here in Colorado. So that means I spend a lot of my time getting inside the minds of customers to try to figure out who they are and how organizations can build products that help them. So it's been fun experience. Before that, I worked with Personality Hacker, and so got to immerse myself in a lot of personality systems and those type of conversations. And so it's been a lot of fun. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, glad to have you. And Kat?
Hey, I'm Kat. I live in the Philadelphia area, where I am self-employed as a somewhat of a property investor. I rehab houses and rent them out, and then do kind of a side project that involves kind of training individuals in some of it's like a nonprofit kind of side project. And we train people in some of the trades. And aside from that, I do a little profiling on the side. And that's about me in a nutshell. I'm excited to be here. Thank you, Joyce.
Really cool to have you. And Kaci?
Hi, I am been here in the community for a while now. I'm a moderator in the personality growth group that Megan Laboda is admin. And I am a therapist. Lots of cognitive behavioral and trauma-focused work, family systems. Been practicing for 13 years, I guess now. Licensed professional counselor. And yeah, I use every tool I can get my hands on to do the work, to work with people, to understand people, have others understand themselves, and just use it in every relational aspect. And yeah, just try to raise my little boy and work full time, and just getting on that grind.
Mm-hmm. Really cool.
Thanks.
And hi, my name's Joyce, and I'm a certified MBTI practitioner, and I facilitate the instrument in organizations, and I type and coach people. All right, so 5 ENTJs. This is quite the fascinating bunch. And so my first question for you all is, what are some ENTJ strengths?
One of the main things I would say is problem solving. So I approach a lot of things that need to get done as a problem and that needs to be solved. So I would say that's one of the greater strengths, but it could also be a weakness, right? Depending how you see it. I would also say I tend to be effective and being effective and efficiency. So I place a lot of emphasis in how to get something done, not only done, but also done in the shortest time possible, but still being accurate and still being a good output, but placing emphasis on that efficiency aspect. I also would want to say a little bit about the NI is the innovation part. So kind of trying to solve an issue or a problem in not necessarily in a way that's always been done, but maybe in a better way or a different way that's not conventional. Something that maybe somebody has not thought about. Maybe like, well, people are doing it this way, but has anybody thought of it doing it this other way that may be better now and maybe better later in the future? So that NI kind of kicks in there. So we kind of tend to think more about the future implications in addition to what's currently happening, at least for me. And I think a structure, also just having structure in kind of really in my whole life, in everything from home to work, life, everything has structure. There's a reason why there's certain things in my home go in a certain place. There's always a reason for those kinds of things. And a lot of it, for me at least, I would consider myself as having high TE. So I like to control my external environment. So more like I'm a minimalist. So I only like things in my home if they have a purpose and if they will be useful in some way. Otherwise they get donated or thrown away if it's trash or whatever, maybe, or sold. So I don't have a lot of things in general, just because I feel they need to be here for a reason. So.
Yeah, really well put, Christian. Very picturesque ENTJ. I'll talk about logical utility and having order in your environment. Yeah, and doing things in an efficient and effective way in the most optimal fashion. Yeah.
I think we're all generally really good at speaking and articulating our thoughts, sometimes with no filter. Just really, the brain is projecting the thought just right out of our mouths. And it's kind of easy for us to make it sound like we actually put some thought or some kind of like pretense planned out thing, but sometimes we just say it and it comes off like everyone understands, and I'm like, oh, you all really understood that. I didn't even barely understand what I just said, but cool. I'm like, just kind of a natural thing I'm not aware of, but feeling like speaking and being understood has its advantage for sure.
Yeah, that is like a quality of extroversion. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit to what Kaci said, I'm more of a better writer or better emailer, because I kind of can get my thoughts together, and it's not like I don't like being placed on the spot on answering things on the spot. I like to kind of think things through and put words, like really put a really well put email. And usually when I send an email, it's either really short or a big block of like bullet points and a really long detailed email. So I kind of tend to like more to take my time and know how to respond. But of course, everybody, can be different in different respects, how they respond to being on the spot versus not. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and being good, concise writers is also our strength. But then when you get into perfectionism territory and really hammering out the writing, it can get tedious, and you're like, just leave it.
Yeah. And Nii, Kat, Dominic, any thoughts?
I wanted to just sort of add to something Christian was talking about earlier about we were talking about efficiency and processes, and I want to point out that I think ENTJs are probably one of our greatest strengths is that we take a very long-term view. So sustainability is incredibly important to us. And I think that's what sets us apart from other TE DOMs, is that we do want to streamline and we do want to get the thing done, but we want to get it, ultimately, we want to get it done in the way that's going to give us the least amount of work in the future, if that makes sense. And so sometimes we may look at something and think, this thing would work really well today, but it's not going to work well next week or next month, or it's only going to work as long as, you know, users are doing it correctly and people are not perfect. And I think that's one of our greatest strengths, is being able to look ahead and see where something is going and realize that it's not actually the best solution. And I think that's something that sets us apart from INTJs. I live with an INTJ, and he's very good at finding the absolute perfect solution. And it's very elegant, and he puts so much thought into it, all the research, and it's like, that's so beautiful. But as soon as humans get involved in that system, it's just going to fall apart in like 3 weeks. And so you can put a lot of time and effort into coming up with a beautiful solution, but if you're not, and maybe that's part of it too, is like understanding that human piece. And maybe that's something that other types don't always understand, is like the people piece is part of the whole puzzle. And I think a lot of other types tend to forget that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So your TE consideration as an ENTJ is more broad, and it encompasses all of the TE pieces more than an INTJ would, is what I'm hearing, because you kind of factor in the human component as well. So you take broader consideration. And with the NI, you kind of see the future implications and the sustainability piece, for sure, and how it can be improved. And yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it too is like what is the quote? It's like the good enough is better than or good enough. What is it, Nii? Good enough is better than perfect, or something?
That's a
done
good
is better than perfect. Done is that what it is?
Yeah,
done
done
is
is
better
better.
than
Yep. Yep.
I don't know. I think about that almost every day. It's like, I think that you know, you can spend so much energy coming up with the perfect system, but how long did it take you to get there, and what happened in the meantime?
It's like using a chop saw instead of a miter saw.
Yeah.
Could be.
Good enough.
I think
Sometimes good enough is best.
The strengths that I see in the ENTJ is big picture. So like here we're in Chicago, and I like the big picture. Opened up 2 offices in Texas, and with that, we were talking about how we build the system, and then there's human factors involved, and that's one of the fun things to do, is, you know, getting the right tools for the human factor. So when I have people that come into the office to, you know, be a dispatcher, they're, you know, I watch their expression like, wow, look at the size monitors that, you know, that I'm using. You know, I give them all the tools. I got them a lazy boy. They all have lazy boy chairs. They're all comfortable. I want them to have fun in their job, because I know if they're having fun, they're going to be working optimal and less, and, you know, they're going to be happy.
very well said. And to go back to Kat's point, done is better than perfect. That's another differentiator between the ENTJ and the INTJ. The ENTJ will want to keep moving and to keep getting things done, whereas the INTJ will be more of a perfectionist with their TE. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. And just, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to add to that point that Kat made, that there's a lot of power in launching something in the real world, because that's where feedback happens. No idea is perfect the very first time. True learning happens by doing. and through experience. And so I think that can give ENTJs an advantage in that I think we're more comfortable launching. If we have an idea or a concept or a hypothesis or a hunch, we're comfortable testing it in the real world and then getting outer world feedback and then calibrating in real time and using NI perspectives to shape our thinking. So I think that compounded over days, months, years creates a lot of sustainability, and it also accumulates a lot of insights and learning. So that was something, that I just wanted to add to that point. I feel like another strength ENTJs have is strategy. For me, like one of the ways that I like to apply strategies in relationships, networking, building relationships with people, and being able to bring out the best in people. I think that's also a trait that a lot of ENTJs have. Is understanding, using NI to understand people and bring out the best in them. And if we're willing to be patient and slow down. So,
What about do you ever have it where you're talking to someone and they're sitting there talking about themselves, and you're like cataloging everything that they're capable of doing, and then you're like, oh, I'm gonna need that craftsmanship or that quality in that person later on. I'm gonna remember this person, so when it comes time to, hey, I remember that one person I talked to, he said he can, do this one particular job. I'm gonna call him up. And you ever have that where you just start with your what you said, networking?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, TE has a huge resource allocation component to it. It knows how to allocate resources very well. So really well put, Dominic.
And here's the other thing with when I was talking about earlier, how, remember I was telling you, payroll only took an hour, and before it used to take 20 hours. So, so the way I would tackle a situation would be kind of almost like a funnel, where here are all these issues, and it's like almost like re-engineering to the source of where the issue started. So narrowing down to where so what we did here was, I don't know if you're familiar with APIs, where you could hit a database of some sort of transportation system, and look for these certain error data and the data that's put in on error or maybe missing data points, to where if this build to is missing this field, then notify. So then that way you have widgets that would show, oh wait, these shipments, I got to correct them. So now we're narrowing down, fixing it. So then this domino effect doesn't happen from point A to Z. So you kind of go like Z backwards to the problem, fix it here. So when we come back this way, we don't keep reoccurring the same.
That's really well put, Dominic. I see it as NI shifting perspectives to find the root cause. So I find that the reason why NI shifts perspectives is to ultimately find that root cause. And so that's beautifully well put.
Exactly.
Anyone else?
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to add that a couple of things that Kat and Dominic said, but yes, just getting on the root cause. For me, problem solving is not just about a Band-Aid. It's about really finding what the root cause of the problem is and actually fixing it, not only for this time, but also fixing it to prevent any future problems. So I sense that a lot of people just want to get a quick fix, but for me, it's like, no, we got to find the root cause, where it originated. We need to address the problem there so that it prevents it from happening in the future. So, and also wanted to add a little bit on what Kat said is that looking at kind of the future, it's, for me at least, it's not about if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's more like if it ain't broke, you can still improve it. You can still make it better. You could still make it better, not for now necessarily, but maybe for the future. So at least that's kind of how I see it. And then on how Dominic said about the big picture, absolutely. So like, for example, when a coworker comes into my office and says, hey, you know, they kind of start with an issue or a question in kind of not starting from the beginning. They just start from the middle, because in their head, they're thinking I kind of know for some reason. But sometimes I'm like, wait, you need to first give me the big picture. Like, what is the issue? Who's involved? What is it that you're trying to solve? Okay, once I have kind of that big picture vision in my head, then you can tell me the details. So it's like, give me the NI first. You know how they say, give me the 411. Give me the NI first. Give me the big picture, and then give me details. Give me the SE, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, I know what you're trying to do. You could do either X, you could do Y, you could do A. So I'll give you different kinds of solutions depending on what I perceive is the best course of action, you know, the most efficient course of action, and most importantly, I try to remain as objective as possible. So, you know, not playing favorites, even if they're good friends or good coworkers. It's not about that. It's about getting the job done and getting it done the right way without, you know, with minimal feelings. Of course, there's going to be always feelings, but it's about doing it the right way, regardless of feelings, for the most part.
Yeah, well put. And that's the difference between ESTJ and ENTJ. So with ENTJs, they always want to keep improving things. They kind of want to keep making it better and try to, because of their NI, it's this constant wanting to make things better, like the NITE. Whereas with the ESTJs, with the SI, it tends to want to work with systems that are already there. And so I noticed that to be a slight difference too. Mm-hmm.
Well, isn't SI more to the point where it's I need to make my decision now based off of my past experience?
Yeah, yes. Yeah. I noticed with the ESTJs that I interview, what they say is that they tend to like to work with the systems that are already there, rather than to keep improving them, like what Christian keeps saying. So yeah. So yeah, it's true, Dominic. So
The sensors don't like when we keep improving. Not at all. I get a lot of kickback. So what I do is when I create something, I'm like a little kid, right? I want to go show everyone, but I know that, okay, calm down, Dominic. You know, you have to find opportunities. So what happens is when I hear someone complaining about something, and I'm like, okay, here's my time to slip that in there, because that's going to solve their problem on the spot when they're actually trying to look for whatever, you know, the thing I created. It's going to help them get there. So that's when I take what, you know, the system I created and throw it in their face and go, oh, well, here, use this, and that'll find what you're looking for. And they're like, oh, okay. And then they start doing, oh, this is awesome. Oh, they start experiencing and getting drawn into it. That's how I present my things that I create to sensors types instead of getting that kickback.
Sweet. I also want to add on the kind of the kind of like you mentioned, the Joyce, like working with existing systems. For me, at least, it's always about innovation. It's about getting a step ahead and being on the cutting edge if possible. So for me, it's if there's something holding me back that doesn't allow me to innovate and create new, possibly unconventional ways of doing something, possibly more effective, maybe something that other people have not thought about. And if I see that as a barrier in any way for any reason, then it's frustrating, because we have all these ideas and we can't implement them. We can't make things better because there is, you know, either, you know, at work, it could be either the idea is just not bought by management, or there's not enough resources, whatever it may be. I have all these ideas, but I can't implement them, and that's to me, at least, that's frustrating. So,
well, on that note, I'm curious, like, how do you guys where do you guys get inspiration? Whether it's to innovate a new idea, or to get a different perspective.
I like to tinker with things. I like to just like come up with an idea out of the blue and just plug it in and see what happens. What if I, we're troubleshooting a problem at work, something IT can't fix. I'm like, all right, looks like I'm on this job. All right, this is pretty simple. I know computers. Let's try this. Boop, boop. Oh, that worked. And I'm like, oh, just kind of like plug and play. As far as inspiration in that sense, I guess I just get an idea. I don't even know where it comes from. It just appears, it manifests itself somehow. I hadn't really figured out. My brain just starts tinkering and pushing things and switching things.
I think for me, it's from a lot of different sources, but sometimes, at least for me, and maybe most ENTJs are this way, is that they like to learn. They like to kind of take in knowledge and information. I know that I am that way. I like to learn new things, learn new programs so that I can be better at work. So always learn. I'm like, well, what if I, what if I learn, so if I learn like how to use a program, right, then that means I get ideas from that program, as in, oh, I can implement this that I just learned into my current work, right? So then I try to move it over from my, personal learning development area into my work, and those ideas come out from learning. Or it could also just be simply from tinkering, like Kat, I think, was saying, it's about maybe like opening up, for example, like opening up a program that you're not really familiar with, but you got a lot of options. You're like, well, let's click here. What does that do? Okay, this does this. Well, what about this? If I click here, what is that going to do? Oh, and then you get like results that you don't really know what's going to happen. You don't expect. And you're like, oh, I could use this, and then I try to bring that into implementation into, work or my personal life, things like that. Or it could be just browsing. Yeah. So.
Now, is that where we're building confidence into something?
Like you mean like confidence for me, like as a person, like personal confidence?
No, I mean, as far as you're talking about tinkering with something, and you get the confidence of, you're interacting with the system. I'm saying, would that kind of build up your confidence of as you're learning? Oh, and you just get more drawn into it and.
I would say yes to that, because you're basically, for me, I know I'm like learning new things that I could actually use that I didn't know existed, or I didn't know how to do, or maybe I had a vision that I wanted to do this, but now I know how to do it because I've been playing around with it. So I would say yes, it would build confidence and makes me want to learn more and use more. So.
And I guess what I'm getting at is when we get to the end game of what we're trying to do, whatever it may be, I feel that's where I have that confidence. That's where I get that boost of confidence, where I'm like, I can do anything. Once I start and finish something, then it gets me, all right, let's get to the next thing. And, oh, okay. And then let's go to the next thing. And like, I never wanted, I like to finish it, but then I like to jump on to the next thing. Not that I, oh no, I don't want it to stop. I just want to keep going. No, I want to stop, but then jump onto something else and start figuring that out.
Yeah, you mentioned the word end game, Dominic, and TE is very end focused, like getting something done in the end utility. Yeah.
Nii, your question just sparked an idea for me. I was thinking about this earlier today when I was driving, when I was thinking about ENTJs. And I realized at some point in my life that people kept always saying to me, like, how did you do that thing? Like, how did you make that thing happen? And it's always just felt like, well, you just do it. Like you dream up a thing and you just do it. Like, what's stopping you? And it just always felt so obvious to me. And so your question just made me think about, I think we're good. We've got that SE component, and you mentioned something about this earlier about kind of just getting in the world and like trying a thing and putting it out there. And, I bought this house last summer that's like this insane house. And we're just like, wouldn't it be cool if we had like this big Victorian house in West Philly and we could like put like musicians in it and do like a studio in the basement? Like, what a crazy idea. And we're just like, let's just do it. Like, why not? Like, why not? Like, let's just do it. And we're just doing it. And I think, you know, when we're talking about like other TE DOMs, I think that's another point that, you know, where we differ is like, we're just more willing, I think, to kind of like do the crazy thing or try the idea, or sort of step out there. And, you know, my mom always says to me, she's like, money just comes to you. Like, I don't understand. And I'm like, no, you just do stuff and you make it happen. Like you want to make a thing happen, you do it, you make it happen. And it's only as I've gotten like a little bit older that I've realized like, oh, everybody doesn't think that way, which is kind of blew my mind. But anyway, I just thought I'd add that.
Yeah. ENTJs have great SE.
It's like when SE and TE get together, we just get stuff done, make it happen, just do it. It happens.
And get in trouble
sure.
too. We can get in trouble too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know with that SC-TE relationship, like for me, the way it manifests is I work with a lot of data, so I can catch like little errors that a lot of people won't, or I could catch like grammar errors or errors in punctuation really easily, and I will basically hand you a paper that's all marked in red. I'm going to be that person basically because I have that strong SE with the TE saying, hey, look at details and get this done sort of mentality. So absolutely right on with that TE-SC relationship.
Oh, so. What about opportunity when it presents itself in the moment? I feel like when I'm walking around all day, I'm just looking for opportunities, just walking around. And when I see something, I jump on it and make something happen out of it, and you know, whatever it is, and then move on, and I just keep walking, and oh, here's another opportunity.
Yeah,
and
I think that's a big part of it, Dom, is like just being like open to things that come along and just noticing them and being like, hey, let's just grab this, like why not? And with that SE component, we're quite nimble, we're quite well, we think we are. You know, I don't know if we really are, but we're quite good at pivoting in the moment. And we're quite good at, or at least I fancy myself good at kind of things come up, you know, fires happen, something unexpected pops in. And whereas I think a lot of people would just get really frazzled by that, we're just kind of like, well, let's just roll with it. Like, let's see what we can do with it. Or let's just pivot this way, or let's turn this way and take another path. And I think we always kind of have our eye on the dashboard, if that makes sense. And kind of going back to what Christian was saying earlier about like the big picture thinking, sometimes like you have to look at the dashboard and you see like there are some like red lights and they're flashing, and you're sort of tempted to be like, oh God, let me go put out those fires. But I think we're really good at just like looking at the whole picture and being like, I could go put out those fires, but actually I might just want to let that thing burn and like this thing, whatever, because the biggest for my buck right now, or the thing that's really going to push this thing forward or get us closer to where we want to be, is to go and tackle these couple of things or this particular thing and focus here or focus there. And I never really realized how good we were at that until I started working with ENFPs, and I'm surrounded by them right now in my work, and they just have no idea how to prioritize. And I'm like, this is so easy, you guys. Like, you just look and see what's going on, and you figure out like what's like our most impactful thing that we can do right now or today. And they're like, oh, I guess I'll go work on this task. And you're like, why would you work on that today? That doesn't make any sense. It's adorable. Sometimes they get their little TE going and they're like, they get some stuff accomplished. But I'm just trying to make the point that I have really taken for granted just how good TE is at doing that and just how natural it is.
Well, and you know, it's funny. I have a brother that's a ESFP, and we work together. We're partners, and he'll be like, "How could he's over there he's saying I'm freaking out over here, and you just walk around like there's nothing wrong." And I'm looking at him like, "Well, I don't know why you're freaking out." I said, "And because there's really nothing to be worried about until there's something to be worried about, because You know, like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, like, I'm not going to worry about it because I know I know it's going to be okay because I already rehearsed this. You know, like 20 different funnels. I got like 20 of them spread out, and I'm playing all these different scenarios in my head to get to and narrowing it down to the one. And and this is a question I wanted to ask because you know I was diagnosed with ADHD, and I was you know, started being treated for it when I was like 30. And, you know, all these tools I made to try to, you know, get through without being, you know, treated for it. Um, and then when I started being treated for it, I felt like these tools I built turned into like super tools once I was being treated. And I'm just wondering, can you expand out to like 20 different funnels at once and narrow everything down?
Well, a lot of
I,
adult ADHD is being hyper focused on one single thing. So you're just using that way your brain works to your advantage at that point. And, you know,
I'm just curious you know what you had to say about it.
yeah.
I mean, I know you're saying the hyper focus, right?
Mhm.
I would make myself. I'd be in the moment. Oh my god, I gotta go to the point where I was making myself sick,
Yeah.
you know. But now I'm all nice and calm and.
Yeah, I work with a group of, you know, most therapists are feelers. And boy, we are an anxious group. And I'm the only one who stays real cool in the face of a potential crisis. That's not a crisis yet. Companies being bought out by so I work, I'm a licensed therapist, but I work for Magellan Health, which just got in the works with Centene. And some people are like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Like, or the DoD contract we're working on is like somebody dropped the ball and like we don't have certain stuff we're supposed to do. And everyone's like, what's going to happen to my job? And I'm like, nothing's happening yet. Calm down. Stay cool. Don't like get all worked up. Just keep doing your job. Like, let's keep looking good. Like, we got this. Yeah, just different levels of anxiety, or, you know, I have a tad ADHD myself. Just, you know, let's work through what we know we're prone to, and you know, turn it into an advantage instead of, you know, being a weakness to prevent us from getting stuff done.
So does that mean that all the Christian and Kat need you have a slight ADHD?
I don't think so, but I wouldn't know. I'm not. I probably would ask, you know, an expert to get clarity, because I'm not going to be objective about myself regarding something like that. But one thing that does come to mind is, I feel like one advantage we have is, like, I think most people associate ambiguity with risk. But just because something is ambiguous doesn't necessarily mean it's risky. And I think in most people's mind, if something is ambiguous and there's no clear path, it means it's risky. And I think we're more comfortable realizing, okay, something might be ambiguous and unclear, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's risky. And I feel like we're able to separate those two and say, we might not have all the answers, but we've got tools in front of us, and we can just take the next step. And if a problem arises, then we'll take care of the problem then, rather than imagining potential problems that don't exist, which is just a waste of energy. So I think that gives us an advantage in execution.
So Dominic, so can you just quickly just clarify what you mean by ADHD in what sense? Or
Your heads are like, well, it's a focusing issue.
And you're
And
focused on something else right now.
like, for instance, let's think of like chairs in a row, like in a line. Well, let's just take those chairs and kind of move them out of sync, and that's how someone that doesn't have it could just woo right through it, where I'm having a difficult time getting through it. I got to kind of hop back and forth instead of just going straight through like a tunnel. It's kind of scattered. Like, but then that also opens up other parts in my mind to do other things that maybe other people normally couldn't do. But then once I was being treated for it, it took all the chairs and kind of lined it up together, kind of like a sniper rifle. And then those tools that I built kind of even got more, enhanced, where it made them like into super tools.
Gotcha. Okay, so I don't think I'm that way necessarily, like that way, but I think I can have issues with maybe keeping attention on something. So, for example, I may be working on task X, right, for a little bit, but then it's unfinished, and then I remember that I also need to attend to task Y, so I leave X in the middle, and then I go do it. Like maybe I'm washing the dishes, and I'm like, oh, I also need to put the clothing in the laundry, so I will stop the dishes, I will put the clothing in the laundry, and then I'll be like, wait, what was I doing? What else did I need to do? So I will kind of momentarily forget.
You mean like an
things.
executive dysfunction, or like right in the beginning, someone presents something to you and you're like, okay, and then you go do it, and then you're like, wait, what am I doing? And then you run back to the person and ask them, where did you want me to get? And then they say it again, and then it locks in, and then you go get it.
No, not necessarily. With that, I don't see a problem with. It's more like my own self, like in my head. I think this comes back to maybe, and I don't know about you guys, but I know for me, I have to-do lists in my head and written down on a whiteboard, on categorized on different things. Like I have a list of like things I need to buy, and I list them out. I have things that I need to do per day at what time. I list them out, Monday through Sunday. Work out, or whatever I need to do, things like that. So it's more like of me in my head. I'm like, okay, I have this to-do list in my head, but it's sometimes hard to remember what they are. Like if you ask me what's your to-do list right now, I'm like, I could tell you maybe a few things, but not all of them. But then spontaneously, maybe in like 30 minutes or maybe even the next day, I'm like, oh yes, this thing was on my to-do list in my head. So the reason I have it also written down is because I can just go to that list and say, what did I need to do? I wrote something down yesterday, but I don't remember what it was. So I go to my list.
You're talking about our trickster function, right? Is that what you're referring to?
I'm not familiar with the trickster, but if you are, then that's what it is. But I know for me, I just can't.
It's our it's our seventh function.
Oh, okay. So
that's right. Gotcha.
It could
memory.
Be. It could be.
I'm very forgetful. I can't remember. I have to visualize it to remember in my head. So if I have something I got to do, I'll take a snapshot of it, and I'll just keep visualizing it in my head so I don't forget till I get to the next part. And then
I gotcha.
Like for instance, if I need to like remember 10 digits, I'll visualize the first 5, and then I'll start saying the other 5 out loud.
Talking about introverted sensing? Is that what you mean? The seventh function?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, for me, it's kind of not exactly that way. It's more like, for me, instead of trying to visualize it, for me, I need to write it down. And if I write it down, that means I can just go and read my board. I don't have to keep it in my head. But also, what's another thing that I do that I think might be odd is I set alarms. So when I know that I need a call, like on my phone, like if I say, hey, on my break time at work at 10:30 in the morning, I need to call my dentist, or I need to call somewhere. So I will set an alarm on my phone and say, and basically with a little text, call dentist. I'm like, okay, I need to do that. So that's kind of keep track of my to-do list through these different methods.
I got 10 alarms that go off every day.
It's a personal assistant. We need them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, so time for the next question. Brilliant answers, everyone. And so what are the types of things that come less naturally to the ENTJ?
Patience, flexibility, emotions.
I think our our introverted feeling feels so deeply, and sometimes we don't know what to do with it when we're caught in what's considered a grip of our FI, just that like, and where we draw inward, which is a very unnatural thing for us to do as extroverts. And with this baby feeling, we're like, what do I do with all these feelings? I don't know. Do I get angry? Do I get sad? I feel like we kind of have to work harder at it. And for me personally, just doing that work and to, help people with their feelings. This is my business. It's helped out a lot. Not to say that I don't like have days where I'm like, I'm feeling really sad, hormones, female, having a kid, things like that. They all, kind of color my introverted feeling. But yeah, that's one that definitely needs help developing throughout the years, 20s, 30s, 40s, and on.
To add to that, Kaci, I feel like ENTJs, sometimes we can struggle to be present and enjoy the moment. I think we're so focused on the bigger picture, on the future, on the outcome, on the goals, the objective, that we can fail to embrace the moment and enjoy the small things in life, because we're always thinking about the big things or the next thing. If we do accomplish a goal, rather than take a few days or weeks to relish in the moment, we're already thinking about the next step and how we're going to leverage this opportunity for the next one. And so I think sometimes we can go through life just chasing one thing after the next and not actually enjoy life itself.
Slow down and smell the roses.
Exactly.
Absolutely. That's definitely a highlight of my life right now. It's like I have, like I said, to-do list is like, I get stressed when things are not crossed off my to-do list, because then that to-do list will just keeps growing and growing. And the longer it gets, the more stressed I get. So the only way to get less stressed is to cross things off. But of course, new things are coming up. So it's a never ending to-do list. So it's trying to stay ahead.
This is why ENTJs have the highest earning salary of all 16 personality types. What everyone is saying, like you move from opportunity to opportunity, leveraging it for its full potential. And that's why they make so much money.
Oh, wow. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
I do want to add to the kind of the less natural question. I would say difficulty listening without attempting to problem solve. So I know that as soon as somebody starts telling me and I know what the problem is before they actually finish telling me, I feel like I already know what the problem is, and I want to interrupt and say, here's your problem, here's how you can fix it. So I think we need to be a little bit more patient in that sense. So sometimes people can just talk and talk, and I'm just like with my arms crossed, just listening. I'm like, okay, are you gonna finish? Because I have your solution already, that sort of thing. So also in these kind of to-do situations, like when you have like and I want to kind of be clear, when I say problem solve, I'm not necessarily referring to just like work problems. It could be like, it could be personal. Like maybe a friend is reaching out for advice. I see that as a problem. Like you're investing your time, they're asking you for help, things like that. So it could be any number of things. But kind of when we're in that problem solving mode, helping somebody or something at work, I feel that the feelings get suppressed, and we're like, we want to be objective. We want to be able to solve that problem, but it can come across as harsh in some ways because we suppress the feeling side. And I'm conscious of that, so I'm trying to work on that. But if it's more of a casual thing where it's not really a problem or it's not maybe urgent, then I could be a little bit more flexible and not be so direct with trying to solve an issue.
How many times have you been told, you're not my father?
Well, yeah, probably a couple of times, but it's you know what? It is what it is. Either in the end, for me, it's like you ask me for advice. You're coming to me.
Let's say that you're not asking.
Here's
you
my
for
solution.
Advice. No, I'm saying, let's say that no one is asking for your advice, and you just start jumping in there trying to help them. And that's what I'm saying, where someone would say, "You're not my father."
See, that's another issue. It's like I do tend to want to solve issues when the people don't even ask me. So the way I respond to those kinds of things, I would imagine it's something along the lines, all right, no problem, I'm just trying to help, but if you don't want my help, that's cool. I mean, it wouldn't be a big scene. So that's it. So, but it would be different if somebody's asking me for help and they don't like it. I'm like, well, I'm just telling you, you asked me for advice. Here's the response. So
I would like to add that this is sort of unrelated, but one of the bigger lessons for me as an ENTJ has just been understanding that if I am more aware, or at least am perceived as more aware of people's feelings and sort of concerns and needs around me, they'll be more kind of manipulative, but they'll be more willing to work with me if they feel heard, if they feel valued. So something that's been important for me in my work, at least, has just been to just be more aware of how things are affecting people, even on an emotional level, or how people are feeling about things, and realizing that if everybody's happier, then we're all happier. We're all getting things accomplished better and more efficiently, and we're more productive. That's been something for me that I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm definitely working on that too. Like I understand. Like sometimes I feel like we understand, we know what to do or how to do it, but it's really hard for it to come out. Like for me, it's like I try to the word, and like I said, my best way of expressing myself in the workplace is through emails, because I have time to think about what I want to write, and I can write a lengthy, I could do my research and then do a point by point rebuttal if I need to, or things like that. And I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah. Anyway.
I don't know. I think maybe part of what you're saying too is like it's the best way feels really obvious to us sometimes, and or at least sometimes it does for me. And sometimes I have to just stop and realize, like, oh, people aren't maybe ready to understand that yet. Like, we're not ready for it. We need to get everybody on board in another way. We need to work with people on their own level. And I think Myers-Briggs has been helpful for me that way. And like just understanding like where other people are coming from, if that makes sense. Because, oh, they approach it from this angle. That's not the way I see it, but that's also valuable. Maybe we can grab something from that. And maybe they just need a little more time to come over here. They'll get there. We just have to figure out how to manipulate them.
You mean find the opportunity? Find the opportunity to present it to them?
Yeah, there's always an opportunity, right? For sure. And it turns out I didn't know everything, and I learned things from other people. True.
I think something on that note is, it still surprises me at times. Not everybody's interested in being effective. It like baffles me, like, and drives me nuts. Like, not everybody's interested in being effective. Not everybody cares about getting to the destination. Sometimes it's just about having fun, or whatever it is, or just like connecting, or it's their own adventure. And so that can sometimes still be like a challenge, is like stepping back and realizing my goals are not always aligned with their goals, and their goals are not aligned with mine. So that will naturally create some friction or tension.
Nee, that's funny, Nee, because if my wife's driving, I'll be like, okay, go this way and go that way and go this way, go that way. And all she's got to say to me is, I'm taking the scenic route. And then I'll go, okay, I'll shut up.
Yeah. So Dominic, on that note, I'm starting to think, if somebody, and I'm sure this has happened, is if somebody tells me what route I should take, like I'm going to take the most efficient route. I'm going to follow what Google tells me or whatever it may be. Right. But if somebody tells me, no, do it this way, and they're serious about it, like they're actually upset or maybe upset, I'm going to say, do you want to drive? If you want to drive, I'll let you drive. You could take whatever route you want. That's perfectly fine. I won't be mad. I'm just saying, if you want it your way, well, then you drive. And it would be kind of the same thing I would imagine in like meetings or get-togethers. It's like, if you try to control my meeting, well, okay, you want to take over, you can take over. I won't be mad, but if you want to run it, you can run it,
Yeah, but maybe I know
my way, basically. So
I think I know more than Google Maps.
we could.
Locally now.
Right.
Excellent thoughts, ENTJs. So I'm wondering, what are some common misconceptions that people have of ENTJs? What doesn't resonate when people talk about ENTJs?
When they say that we're selfish.
I would say for me, it's a lot of people that are not like very versed in MBTI or similar systems, is that when they see that E in the front, they think we like people, or they think that we like to go out and have fun and party and be the center of attention. And as we know, it's not necessarily that. Your energy could be towards people, but it could also be towards the environment. So for me, it's not people. It's actually the environment. Like, I like to manipulate my environment to be the most efficient, effective way for me to do things, even simple things like chores, right? So so for me, it's not, I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't know if I'm really like actually introverted, like around people. I know I'm not shy, but I'm not sure if I'm actually introverted because of just myself, like towards people, or is it that I have too many things to do that I just happen to prioritize those things, and as a result, not be around people. So I'm trying to still figure that out. I think it's a little bit of both, but it's just this never-ending to-do list that just is a priority for me. And people and having fun and going out just kind of takes a back seat, and I need to change that. But I guess that I just wanted to mention that that's a kind of a misconception, is that we're essentially extroverts, and we like people. So, that sort of thing.
Yeah. The most common mistype for ENTJs is INTJ. A lot of ENTJs think they're INTJ sometimes because they don't associate themselves with extrovert, because they don't necessarily always like people. They like their TE. They like getting stuff done in the most optimal way.
Exactly. And it's not that we hate people, at least for me, speaking for myself, it's not that we hate people, is that, we like to have fun. But honestly, for me, it's like, I need to get stuff done. It's like, I'm going to get stressed if I don't. And fun, first is getting things done. Second is fun for me, like in a nutshell, basically. So.
Gotta wake up early before everyone gets up, knock it out, and then you got all day to play.
Yes, the day will be longer. The day will be longer, and there'll be more things to do, right?
I've been up since 3 o'clock this morning. It's 10. I'm starting to feel it now,
Yeah, right.
Something else that comes to mind is people feel like ENTJs are cold, heartless, and we don't have any emotions. We're just a machine or a robot. Now, just because we're effective doesn't mean we don't have emotions, or that we don't feel. And I think sometimes strategy can feel like inauthentic or disingenuous to people, and it doesn't necessarily have to be. So I think those are a couple other ones that come to mind too.
What about not doing the right thing? I feel that people think that we don't want to do things right, that we just want to cut corners. And it, and my thing is that, hey, if I'm gonna, let's just say it's like illegal, something like, I don't know, taxes or something along those, and it's like, well, if there's a loophole, why not use it? That's why the loophole exists. And if it's defendable, then why not? That's why the loophole exists. But I still want to do things right.
Just efficient. Like, why do extra work when you don't need to? There's plenty of other stuff to do, get done, big picture. Why are we hung up on this little detail? Cut the damn corner.
Yeah, I
Some
mean,
people value their corners more than us.
Yeah, I can't imagine, like, for me at least, I can't imagine somebody telling me that I like to cut corners, because I perceive myself, like, of course, as we know, I don't know how other people perceive me. I can only imagine how other people perceive me, but I don't think anybody would tell me that I'm cutting corners. In fact, I try to be really thorough, objective, and saying, hey, here are the facts. I did my research. Here are the facts, point by point, right? Things like that. And it's for me, it's about doing it the right way, no matter how long it takes. Of course, if you're pressured or at work or have deadlines, that's a different story. But ideally, you want to do. I would want to do things the right way, taking the most time that's possible. That I need, basically. So.
Well, a lot of it's because they don't understand how you got to there from A to Z, and they think that you had to cut corners, and they don't feel comfortable with it, and that's what that bothers me a lot when I come across situations like that.
Like, you didn't do it the right way you're supposed to. You cheated.
But I didn't. I know I did it the right way because I don't want to have any issues later on. I want to set it and forget it, and then later on come and visit it to maybe improve it. But never cut corners to where it's gonna fail.
Yeah. Do you think it's because we tend to kind of work, tend to want to work alone and developing our own system by ourselves, and then presenting just the end result for the most part? Do you think is that what it is? You think?
We go by the beat of our own drum. Yeah.
Well, that's the control in us. We want to control our future, not everyone's future. But then if someone gets in the way of distorting what we're trying to get to, then that's kind of where I think where we kind of, I don't want to lash out or seem, tyrant, or because we know if we're on this path, this is going to work. We know it. Don't get in my way, because if you get in my way,
we're gonna make it happen anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good question, because I feel like with NI, we're comfortable with doing things differently or trying a new way if we believe it's more effective. So that can cause people like somebody that has SI or introverted sensing in their function to be very uncomfortable, because they're like, whoa, we're not doing it the right way, but to them, the right way might be the conventional way. And we're very comfortable challenging convention and saying, well, it's not about doing it the conventional way, where it's about doing it the most effective way. And that might be the new way. And the new way will eventually become the conventional way anyway. So I think that probably plays into it as well.
Interesting. And so ENTJs as children, what differentiated you from other children? How would someone be able to spot an ENTJ child?
We're challenging everything and authority.
That's a good one. A comfort level talking to adults, not feeling intimidated or uncomfortable around them.
I would say I could tell because I was a lot deeper when I would talk, and I would lose my friends. They'd be looking at me like, what? And I'd be like, oh, never mind. And I would have to catch myself not getting too deep with people.
I know that for me, I'm one off, but I used to be like growing up until high school, maybe even a little bit of college, kind of that quiet loner type of person, a student that kind of does their own thing, eats lunch by himself, in school, not have many friends, not really popular, just kind of that shy, stereotypical shy person. That's kind of how I used to be. But I think more recently, probably within the last 2 years, I think there was a dramatic shift in me, because I think really it was more of it, something was holding me back from being myself, I think, up until recently, like maybe 2 years ago. And now I've come to that place where it's like, well, you know what? I'm getting old. It's kind of like that saying, when you get older, you stop caring about what other people think, or you stop caring about certain things. I think something like that came out in me, where I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna start being really what I want to be. So I think my true personality as an ENTJ wasn't really apparent as a child growing up. just because it was being held back in some fashion, really up until recently. So I think that's kind of odd, but that's just how it's been. So
I would say that I had like different groups. I would be around like all the the guys that would play the sports. My SC would always kind of want to go play football and this and that, but really, what I truly liked was the nerds, because I was like, oh man, they got the cool computer, they got the Tandy 1000. I want to go play on their computer, go play Police Quest, or and I would go do that, and I was like really drawn to it. But then I was like, oh wait, I don't want them to know that I'm hanging with these guys because they're like the nerds. But I like the nerds because I learn a lot from them. But I also like them because I go play football. But then I find myself when the guys, the sports guys, would pick on the nerds, then I would get in the middle and like stop, like, hey, leave them alone, and and I kind of was finding myself in that role. I don't know.
Sounds like you're like a social instinct first on the Enneagrams, the 3 instincts. So you were more concerned about social variations when you were younger. Have you looked into the stackings, the instinctual stack?
Kids, I would say when you're like in 4th, 5th, 6th, kids could be mean to each other. And I know what it feels like to, someone trying to bully me, but I would always fight back. So when I see the bigger guy picking on the little guy, it's not that I was concerned about I mean, maybe a little, but I didn't like the bigger person picking on the little guy.
Yeah. Well, that's the type 8, wanting to, make sure the underdog is being taken care of. Yeah. The little guy, protector.
Yeah. Seems like 8 is a common Enneagram type for ENTJs.
7, for sure.
Yeah, for TE DOMs. Excellent answers, everyone. And so I was wondering, how do you spot an ENTJ adult then?
I hear myself. When I hear myself out there, then I think that's how I spot them.
I don't know. I'm not really on the lookout particularly for any particular type, but if I were actually paying attention and on the lookout for ENTJs, I would probably notice that, they're talking well, I'd first look that they're an extrovert, so just kind of cut the population in half. Okay, these people are the extroverts. Okay, who's got more of who's got less feeling? So it's just kind of like, how do you type people in general? And everyone's got a different system. So I'm just like, okay, let's do the F and the T. All right, so that person seems like a feeler. That seems like FE. They could be ENFJ. They're very much more people-oriented. And then these people that could be ENTJs are, more talking about things not in relation to people, but just the thing itself. And like, I understand them. And I want to be there for it. Not that I don't want to be friends with any other type, but like that's like a person that I'm really relating to. Yeah.
Really interesting point, Kaci. And so, yes, that brings an interesting point, introversion and extroversion. So Jungian extroversion is a focus on external things. So you'll notice with ENTJs, maybe you can spot one by noticing how quick they jump in and speak when something is ineffectual, or how quick they notice, or when they take leadership. That might be a hint too.
Yeah.
I think
ENFJs do that too. So that's why it's down to the feeling and thinking as the second criteria.
Yeah, and so one of the ways I tell apart FE DOMs from TE DOMs is that TE DOMs will want to directly impact a situation in order to like fix the system, in order to improve it. Whereas I feel like FE DOMs, their instinct in order to fix the situation is to lift moods. So so that's where I see the differentiation. My
in
ENFJ
the
friends will
moment,
want to,
but in the moment, right?
in the moment when it's happening, like your first impulse, basically, is it to fix the situation with TE, or is it to FE lift moods? And you'll know if they're FE dom or TE dom off of that slight thing. It's not always, but it applies.
You could always just tell by people that are actionable. You know how they say actions speak louder than words. So I believe in that. So someone could say, you know, something, okay, and they keep saying it, but it's like, all right, when you're gonna do it? When they do it, then that's how I think another way you can tell that you're at least dealing with an EJ type.
I feel like EJs or ENTJs specifically tend to have this sense of urgency, the way that they carry themselves. Like they're just not meandering about and wondering. You can tell that there's a sense of purpose, and I feel like there isn't a lot of fluff. Very direct, straight to the point, and for conversations that are that way, unless it's tantalizing their perspectives function and they're learning and getting something out of it. It feels like their conversation pattern tends to be more like, let's get straight to business.
Agreed. Very much agreed there. So I would also say probably a person that wants, I got a list going on here. Probably a person that kind of wants to control their situation. So maybe not control people, but they just want to control the situation and make sure it doesn't get out of hand, sort of thing. When approached with a problem, they probably ask a tons of, and this applies to me, so I'm not speaking for all of them, but I'm saying this because it applies to me. Ask a lot of questions genuinely, like when they're presented with a problem, they may ask you a bunch of questions to really understand the big picture and then possibly understand the smaller details. Offer solutions to problems. So when there's a problem, they offer solutions. I want to emphasize also has high expectations. So this is definitely, I think, a big one for me. So, and that kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about us wanting to do things on our own, is because we have those high expectations that we either perceive or are real that other people will not be able to meet. So I would say for me, small talk is not really a big thing. I'm not really good at it. It's not really of interest. Give me intellectual discussions. Talk to me philosophy, psychology, interesting things like that. I'm good at those kinds of things, not really the small talk type of thing. So yeah. And I would say also we were talking about the people's feelings, placing emphasis more on being objective. And not really, I don't want to say not caring about people's feelings, but really placing very much more an emphasis on being objective and getting the task done the right way, objectively. I would say, like, also if you were to go to like maybe somebody's house, they're probably, I would say they're very much organized. So if they're just have things organized in their place, that alone, it probably won't be the reason to say ENTJ, but a possibility, right? So and just a last thing, I know for me personally, just to give a little bit of insight of kind of personal behaviors for me, if someone were to come to my house, the types of things that I do, which I think are crazy, like when I were, like, for example, wash my hands, like I need to clean up the mirror right away. I need to clean up the water mess right away. If I'm washing the dishes, I need to clean up between dishes. I don't like messes. And if I'm cooking, like I need to clean up as I go, not at the end. So I don't like these big messes. So essentially that kind of goes back to controlling your situation, sort of thing. So I feel a lot of these things are odd, but that's just the high TE, I guess, that I have, having that control.
Sense of urgency. It needs to be done now. Right now,
right.
It'll be forgotten later. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. TE is all about controlling external objects.
We're probably more prone to OCD than other types.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Perfectionism, getting it done right, and right now.
I realized this recently for myself, and I think a couple of the other ENTJs that I know, is that when we meet new people, we tend to like kind of just interview them instead of like engage in like a real conversation. Do you guys find that you do that? It's like, what do you do? What are you good at? Where would you be useful in my life? Like, what are the resources here? Where can we plug you in? Who do you know? Tell me more about that. Like, why are you interested in that? What motivates you to do that? Like, teach me something about that. So like I have that, card in my deck, or I have a little bit of knowledge there. Or
Useful to me.
Yeah, kind of like going back to what Kat was saying, I'm more of I can kind of relate to that more. It's more like I only let in people into my life if they have some sort of value to bring. Like I don't want to bring just anybody. Like I need to know, and it's not like to use people. It's just, hey, do we have things in common? Can we have intellectual stimulating conversation? That sort of thing. Like what kind of value can we bring to each other? But, so I'm really selective about people that are in my life, and a lot of people don't get in. I have a brick wall, but if you can bring that, like I get bored. Like I really need to talk to people that can really engage me and really challenge me and think philosophically, talk about those kinds of intellectual discussions. Otherwise, I just get bored and they just won't get in. So it's just difficult, and it can be lonely sometimes. But it's just people just I feel can just not keep up with us sometimes. That's kind of my perspective.
I could agree with you there.
I find interesting, like I find everything interesting. Like I can't say I get bored with people. I just like start pushing another button. I'm like, oh, what does this do? What does that do? The same way I approach life in general. Like I just poke people.
But what about keeping relationships going? So I kind of find myself just, even though I don't really know the guy, I met him, but like a couple months goes by and I'm like, you know what? Let me text this guy, just say, hey, what's up? Just checking in, just so I'm fresh in his head. So when I do need him, then it's not like, oh, you only call me when you want something. No, I've been texting you and engaging with you for the last 6 months. Christmas. I say, hey.
It just depends if that's like the nature of the relationship. You're going to use them later. Like, keep the tabs. Make sure they know you're still in their circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost very FE. It feels like.
Well, my mother is an FE, and I kind of maybe learned that from her.
Yeah. Like, I need to make sure this person feels good about me.
No, not good about me. Just that I'm still fresh in their mind. Not good about me.
Yeah. This kind of shows how to figure out type, you have to look beyond the behavior to look at the why. So on the surface, someone checking in on you all the time can look like an FE check-in, right? But if it's for a TE purpose, like they have a utility for you after, then that's more TE. Yeah. So interesting stuff. And so next question, what are some fictional and real life ENTJs that you guys know about?
Henry Turner from Regarding Henry, fiction. It was a movie from 1991 with Harrison Ford.
I don't think I've seen it.
Oh, yeah.
The first one that jumped to mind was Frank Underwood from House of Cards. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Yeah. But he feels very ENTJ, like a dark ENTJ.
Yeah.
I think I've heard him typed as INTJ before, and then the wife was the ENTJ. See, fictional is hard because you can't really, like, it's up for interpretation. Like, Cersei is my go-to, like, ENTJ gone wrong of fictional characters. More wine, please.
How about George Clooney?
It could be. See, I just don't know. Real life or?
Oh, no, real life. Because he's like direct, and I don't know, he kind of when I listen to him, you know how you say you could spot an ENTJ. Well, when I hear him talking, I could pick up on his vibe. Tony Soprano from Sopranos.
He's ENTJ probably.
Yeah, FDR.
Margaret Thatcher, the female ENTJ politician.
It's interesting. So there are a few dark examples of ENTJs. So I'm wondering, are there any like good character ENTJs, or are they mostly portrayed as the villain?
So I feel like they're mostly portrayed as the villain.
Yeah.
I struggle to find or think of an ENTJ that's portrayed virtuously in a movie or a book. I feel like more often than not, they're portrayed as the conniving villain who uses people to get to the top.
Yeah, like a plotter, like step on people, kill people, whatever it takes to get to where I need to go. get out of my way or die.
Yeah.
I think it's just exaggerated how they're portrayed in movies sometimes. Just in general, how they relate to how they compare types to a villain. I think that's just over exaggerated. We're not like that. I don't think we're not that mean, or we're going to go around killing people. So
Yeah, I agree. INTJs have the same problem where a lot of fictional examples of INTJs tend to be the villain, unless they're in Queen's Gambit. I think the main characters in Queen's Gambit is
He's
INTJ.
for sure. I love that show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so ENTJs have the same being characterized as a villain problem that INTJs do, which needs to one day change, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Thank you so much, ENTJs, for the wonderful examples of your type. And so I was wondering, my next question for you all is, sorry, I'm getting nervous again. I'm so sorry. Your experience with your
Just think about how tired you are and just be chill.
Yes, thank you.
it's all good. No need to be worried. We're laid back. We're not like the villains like you see in the TV.
Like people keep telling me over the last, like, I don't know, I never saw myself as intimidating, but that word keeps coming up like over and over the last couple of years. Do you find, Joyce, from your perspective, do you find ENTJs intimidating?
So I would say it depends on the ENTJ. You know, when Nii was talking about the sense of urgency that ENTJs have, I noticed that in ENTJs. And sometimes
like, I better hurry up and say something like smart or they'll leave the room, because people tell me that and I'm like, I really don't feel that way. Like, I'm not going to leave the room. I mean, I might, but probably not.
Yeah.
All my kids' friends are scared of me. I don't know why. I'm nice to them. I say hi. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about INTJs. I feel like they're just, it's like, hurry up and say something smart or they're going to lose interest immediately and just scratch you right off the...
You just want to keep moving things forward and have that flow. So just like jump in, Joyce.
Yeah.
Talk over us.
I appreciate that. So what is everyone's experience with their cognitive functions, starting with TE, going down to FI? So TE is the dominant function of ENTJs for everyone who doesn't know yet. And so I'm just wondering about your thoughts on that, and then we can go down the stack. Yeah. I feel like most of our chat was about TE, so I feel like we covered it. It's about efficiency, it's about getting things done, and it's about externally ordering things in your environment. So yeah. Anything else you guys would like to add to it before we go on to NI?
Willpower with the NI.
Cool.
Yeah, just I mean, we pretty much covered TE already. Like I said, so I'll just bring in the NI. Like we said, big picture and then details. At least for me, Dominic's mentioned about playing scenarios in his head. Same thing. I'm driving home. There's no music sometimes. I'm just like thinking how I'm gonna do certain things. Am I gonna do X, Y? How am I gonna do X, Y, and Z? Think of different ways to do things in a linear way. That sort of thing. And I think one of the things about us is also about prevention. Like, it's not only about now, but how do we prevent issues in the future? So I think we covered a little bit on that. I mentioned a little bit on SE, which is the detail oriented. For me, it's that data and that spelling, that grammar that a lot of people I feel don't catch. For me, the SE, I think, can be pretty strong. together with the TE. And I also happen to notice a lot with the SE, like I tend to notice what's happening in the environment pretty easily, like even far away. Like when I'm driving, I don't just look at what's in front. I look at what's the vast landscape, like what's actually happening. And then the FI, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I have a pretty strong sense of self. Like I know who I am, my values, my direction in life, things like that. But that also comes at the expense of, the FE, right? So the other people, at least for me. So like I said, for me, I come first. My peace of mind comes first. My to-do list come first, and then fun and other people come second. Basically, that's basically my FI in a nutshell. So anyway, that's kind of how my function stack kind of works.
Yeah. Brilliantly put. Any other ENTJs want to answer?
I was just thinking, Christian, when you were talking about that, like I've been thinking a lot lately about both the FI piece, primarily the FI piece, but maybe I guess a little bit of the SE piece too. Like, I think we've got like kind of like a bullshit meter, like a radar for bullshit with people, if that makes sense. And like, we just can, at least for me, I don't know if it's me just like flattering myself, but I feel like I'm pretty good at sussing out pretty quickly when somebody's like bullshitting me, or they're just like not being, like, I hate anything that just feels really inauthentic. Like, and maybe part of that is like the TE coming into where it's just like, I don't know, like, why are we doing this? Like, this is just,
Yeah, I relate to what you were saying, Kat, actually, about the bullshit meter. It's like, that's exactly why I put up a wall with a lot of people. It's like you need to be basically worth it. You need to be kind of in in a similar level as me, as far as I guess life in general. And if you're not really up to par, then you're not going to get in, type of thing. So that goes kind of into the bullshit detector. You're going to get. I have no problem cutting off people out of my life if they're just they flip on me or anything like that. Like, I have no problems doing that, and I have done it. And I will use it if I need to. So, but in the first place, for me, it's about preventing them from getting in first, if possible, right? So,
yeah, totally. And so, thank you, ENTJs, for coming out and sharing your ability to be so efficient and to get things done in a way that is so almost superhuman. With the SE, it just adds speed and urgency to the systems that you create, and you create wonderful, elegantly made systems that are so well made that it benefits everyone who gets to be the user of that. So thank you for just creating systems almost like they are art. So thank you so much for that. And I also appreciate ENTJs, your ability to spot what is purposeful to do. You immediately get a sense of the big picture and whether something fits into the big picture of your life or not. And you're quick to cut out the bullshit. And so I really appreciate that quickness, that sharpness with noticing bullshit, and then being able to spend your time and your resources the most wisely as you can. Yeah. And I appreciate your SE, your ability to really do things in a speedy way and to be able to notice details and how they fit into the big picture that you want to accomplish. So you're very quick with noticing those things that play into the big picture. Yeah. And so I massively appreciate that. And you're the opposite of time wasters. Y'all are masters at optimizing your lives and just the world in general. So thank you for noticing all the inefficiencies and all the places things could be improved and then improving it. So thank you for the constant focus on improvement. Thank you for just always looking for ways to innovate, looking for ways to change up, and looking for ways to improve the systems that already exist. It offers this ability to really capitalize on the resources around you in a way that's unlike any other. And so, yeah, thank you for just your ability to resource allocate people, to keep them in mind so that you're able to really use them to their full potential. And yes, I just really, really enjoy ENTJs and your ability to spot potential, whether it's spotting potential in systems, spotting potential in people, and then being able to capitalize and utilize that to its full capacity. And I just appreciate that focus on the end goal. Like, you guys know what contributes directly to end goals, and you guys know exactly how to get to destinations in a way that is most expedient but well done. So you guys do things properly, you guys do things right, but you also know how to the best way to do it too, and that's like a double whammy. Yeah, because most people, they either know how to do things right but they do it slowly, or they do things quickly and they cut corners. But ENTJs know how to both do things right and do things quickly, which is a massive superpower on its own. So thank you for bringing that to the world. And I appreciate all of the tips you had to spotting ENTJs. That was wonderful. And thank you everyone for coming out. And I'm wondering, what is everyone's social media information if anyone wants to find you?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Yeah.
LinkedIn, Facebook, the Balance Connections counseling. Not that I'm really using that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Instagram, I'm kicking assets. It's kicking.ass.ets.
Yeah.
Follow my business center and my
And for me, it's my first name, Christian, starting with CH, and then my last name is Marua, M for Mary, URUA, or I'm under Space Wizard in Google, in YouTube. I commented on the ESTJ video, and that's how I kind of learned about this one. So you can find me there as well.
I'm not too active on social media, so LinkedIn might be the best one. If you just type in my name, Nii Codjoe, last name is Codjoe. That's probably the best way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, wonderful. So thank you, ENTJs, for this wonderful chat. You really illuminated light on the ENTJ personality, and I'm greater for it. So thank you for that. And I'll see everyone in the next video.
You're too sweet.
Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for being you, and I'll see everyone in the next video.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Joyce.
Take care.